The Zephyrian warfleet moved through space like a deadly cloud of metal and death. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue marble of Earth grow larger on the display screens. His forearms crossed behind his back as he studied the primitive planet that dared to exist in territory the Zephyrian Empire now claimed. "Sir, we're detecting some unusual energy signatures from the outer system," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Kesahal. The young officer's purple skin had turned a shade darker with nervousness. "Explain," Vextar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 worlds. "There are observers, sir. Ships that don't match any known design in our databases. They're just watching us." Vextar's main eyes narrowed while his smaller secondary eyes continued monitoring the tactical displays. In his 300 years of military service, he had learned that unknown variables usually meant trouble. But he had orders from the High Command. Earth contained rare minerals needed for the Empire's expansion, and the primitive humans would either surrender or be eliminated. "How many ships?" he asked. "Difficult to say, sir. Our sensors keep picking up different signatures. At least 12 distinct vessel types, but they're using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before." The Admiral's mandibles clicked together in thought. The intelligence reports on humanity had been thorough. They were a young species, barely 5,000 years into their recorded civilization. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago and had established exactly 3 colonies beyond their home system. Their technology was primitive, their military unorganized, and their population was constantly fighting among themselves. "Sir, incoming transmission from the planet's surface," announced the communications officer. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and displayed a human female with gray hair and tired eyes. She sat behind a simple wooden desk in what appeared to be a basic office. Behind her, a blue flag with white symbols hung on the wall. "This is Secretary General Chen Wei of the United Earth Government," the human said in accented but clear galactic standard. "We're aware of your fleet's approach and your intentions." Vextar stepped forward, his imposing 8-foot frame casting shadows across the bridge. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. By order of the High Command, this system now belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will take it by force." The human woman's expression didn't change. "I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Admiral. We've prepared a response to your arrival." A sound escaped Vextar's throat that might have been laughter. "Human, you have 3 small colonies and a few dozen ships. My fleet carries enough firepower to turn your planet into molten rock. What possible response could you have prepared?" Secretary General Chen leaned forward slightly. "Admiral, before you make any decisions you might regret, I think you should know that you're being watched. In fact, you've been watched since you entered this system." "The unknown ships," Vextar acknowledged. "We're aware of the observers." "They don't concern us. They should," Chen said quietly. "Those aren't just observers, Admiral. They're witnesses." Vextar's secondary eyes twitched. "Witnesses to what?" "To what happens when someone tries to take Earth by force. You see, Admiral, this isn't the first time someone has come here with conquest in mind." The bridge fell silent except for the soft humming of the ship's systems. Lieutenant Kesahal looked up from his console with confusion written across his features. The intelligence reports had mentioned nothing about previous invasions. "Explain," Vextar demanded. Chen's image remained steady on the screen. 317 years ago, another empire decided that Earth would make a nice addition to their territory. The Krillian hegemony, perhaps you've heard of them? Vextar's blood ran cold. Every military officer in the known galaxy had heard of the Krillian hegemony. They had been the most powerful empire in the galaxy for over 2,000 years, controlling nearly a quarter of all known systems. Then 3 centuries ago, they had simply disappeared. Their entire civilization had vanished almost overnight. Researchers and historians still debated what could have caused such a complete collapse. "The Krillians are extinct," Vextar said, though his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. "Yes, they are," Chen agreed. "And do you know why?" Before Vexistar could respond, his tactical officer called out in alarm. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The observer ships, they're powering weapon systems." On the display screens around the bridge, new contacts began appearing. Ships that had been invisible moments before suddenly became visible as their stealth systems deactivated. They were unlike anything in the Zephyrian military database. Some were sleek and organic-looking. Others appeared to be made of crystalline structures that bent light around them. Still others looked like they had been grown rather than built. "Incoming transmission, sir," Lieutenant Kesahal announced, his voice barely above a whisper. "Multiple sources. Put them through." The screen split into dozens of sections, each showing a different alien face. Vextar recognized some of the species. The crystalline ethereals, the plant-like Verdani, the energy beings known as the luminals. Others were completely unknown to him, but what chilled him to his core was that every single one of these species was supposed to be either extinct, mythical, or so advanced that they had withdrawn from galactic affairs eons ago. One of the beings, an ethereal whose body seemed to be made of living diamond, spoke first. "Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire, we are here as representatives of the Galactic Council of Protectors." "The Council is a myth," Vextar breathed. "No, Admiral," the ethereal continued. "We are very real, and we have been watching over humanity since they first looked up at the stars." Another being, this one appearing to be made of pure light, added its voice to the conversation. 317 years ago, we watched the Krillian hegemony make the same mistake you are contemplating today." Vextar looked back at the human on the screen. Secretary General Chen's expression had not changed, but now he could see something else in her eyes. It wasn't fear or desperation. It was pity. "What happened to the Krillians?" he asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. The ethereal's crystalline features seemed to shift slightly. "They learned what happens when someone threatens humanity's homeworld." "Would you like a demonstration, Admiral, or would you prefer to turn your ships around and never return?" Admiral Vexitar's hands trembled as he processed what he was seeing. The tactical display showed his fleet of 200 warships surrounded by vessels that shouldn't exist. His mind raced through everything he knew about galactic history, trying to make sense of what was happening. "This is impossible," whispered Commander Zethral, his second-in-command. "The Council of Protectors is a story told to children, ancient beings who supposedly guided younger races and then vanished into legend." Secretary General Chen's voice cut through their confusion. "Admiral, I think it would help if you understood exactly what you're dealing with. Perhaps our friends could share some history with you." The ethereal being's crystalline form pulsed with inner light. "Very well. Admiral Vextar, your species achieved spaceflight 2,000 years ago. You've built an empire spanning 47 systems. You consider yourselves ancient and powerful." "We are powerful," Vexitar said, but his voice lacked conviction. A new voice joined the conversation. This one came from a ship that looked like it had been carved from a single massive bone. The being speaking appeared to be some kind of reptilian creature with scales that shifted between colors as it spoke. "I am Elder Sistis of the Serpentine Dominion," the creature said. "My people achieved faster-than-light travel when your world was still cooling from its formation. We were old when your ancestors first crawled from whatever primordial soup spawned them." Another transmission activated, this one from a ship that seemed to be made entirely of flowing metal. The being inside was humanoid, but appeared to be constructed from the same liquid metal as its ship. "I am Flux Commander Argentum of the Flowing Ones. We transcended physical form before your star ignited. Yet we all serve the same purpose now, protecting humanity." Vextar's mind reeled. These weren't just advanced species. These were beings from the earliest epochs of galactic civilization. Races that had either been thought extinct for millions of years, or had passed into the realm of myth and legend. "Why?" he managed to ask. "Why do beings like you protect a species that barely learned to fly between worlds 50 years ago?" The light being pulsed brighter as it responded. "Because, Admiral, humanity is special in ways your people cannot comprehend. Would you like us to show you what we showed the Krillians?" "Sir," Lieutenant Kesahal called out from his station, "I'm detecting temporal distortions around several of the Council ships. It looks like they're accessing historical data streams." Before anyone could respond, the main screen changed. Instead of showing the various alien faces, it now displayed what appeared to be a recording. The image quality was perfect, as if they were watching events unfold in real time. The scene showed Earth as it had been 3 centuries ago. The planet looked much the same, though the city lights were different patterns and there were fewer orbital stations. Approaching the planet was a massive fleet that dwarfed even Vextar's impressive armada. The Krillian hegemony, Secretary General Chen explained. At the time, humanity had just achieved faster than light travel. We had no colonies, no allies, and certainly no military capable of standing against an empire that controlled thousands of worlds. The recording showed the Krillian fleet taking positions around Earth. Their ships were massive, angular vessels that bristled with weapons. The lead ship was the size of a small moon. The Krillian Supreme Admiral was named Vorthak, the ethereal continued. He was considered one of the greatest military minds in galactic history. He had personally overseen the conquest of over 300 species. In the recording, they could see the communications between the Krillian fleet and Earth. The human leaders of that era looked terrified and desperate. They offered everything they had, their resources, their technology, even their freedom. All they asked was that their people be allowed to live. Vorthak had refused. He wanted complete submission and the right to use humanity as slave labor for his empire's expansion. "Watch carefully, Admiral," the Serpentine Elder said. "This is where everything changed." The recording showed the moment when the Council ships had appeared around the Krillian fleet. Just like now, they had materialized from nowhere, surrounding the invaders. The similarity to the current situation was not lost on Vextar. Vorthak made the same mistake you are considering, the flowing commander noted. He assumed that his technological superiority and military experience would see him through. In the recording, they watched as Vorthak ordered his fleet to attack the Council ships. What happened next defied everything Vextar understood about space combat. The Council ships didn't return fire in any conventional sense. Instead, they simply changed things. Krillian weapons fired but struck nothing but empty space. Their shields activated but protected them from no incoming damage. Their ships moved but found themselves exactly where they had started. The Council doesn't fight wars the way younger species do, Chen explained. They don't destroy ships or kill crews. They simply demonstrate the futility of resistance. The recording showed Krillian ships beginning to malfunction in impossible ways. Computers showed readings that couldn't be real. Weapons powered down without being touched. Life support systems continued working but displayed error messages that read like poetry. Vorthak lasted exactly 17 minutes before he ordered his fleet to withdraw, the light being said. He returned to Krillian space convinced that he had encountered some kind of elaborate trick or new technology. What happened then? Vextar asked, though he suspected he already knew. He gathered every ship the hegemony could spare, the ethereal replied. Nearly 10,000 vessels, the largest invasion fleet in recorded history. He was convinced that with enough firepower, he could overcome whatever defenses humanity possessed. The recording fast-forwarded to show the return of the Krillian fleet. It was indeed massive beyond imagination. Ships stretched from one side of the solar system to the other. The Council tried to warn him, Chen said quietly. They offered him the same choice we're offering you. Leave and never return or face the consequences. He chose to fight. Commander Zethral whispered. Yes, the Serpentine Elder confirmed. And that was when the Council showed the galaxy why humanity is under their protection. The recording changed again. This time it showed not just the space around Earth, but the entire galaxy. Tiny points of light represented the thousands of Krillian worlds, their massive industrial complexes, their billions of citizens. The Council didn't destroy the Krillian fleet, the flowing commander explained. They did something far more elegant. In the recording, they watched as every single Krillian world simply forgot how to be Krillian. Their technology stopped working, not because it was damaged, but because their people could no longer remember how to operate it. Their language became incomprehensible to them. Their cultural knowledge vanished like morning mist. Within a single day, the most powerful empire in the galaxy became a collection of confused people staring at machines they no longer understood, Chen said. They weren't harmed physically, they simply weren't Krillian anymore. Vextar stared at the recording in horror and fascination. They erased an entire civilization's identity. The individuals survived, the light being clarified. They formed new societies, learned new ways of living. Many are quite happy now. But the Krillian hegemony, as an aggressive, expansionist empire, simply ceased to exist. The recording ended, returning to the view of the various council representatives and Secretary General Chen. "Now, Admiral," Chen said, "you have the same choice Vorthak had. What will it be?" Admiral Vextar found himself in an impossible situation. His entire military career had been built on the certainty of Zephyrian superiority. Their technology was advanced, their tactics proven, their empire stable and powerful. Yet here he stood, facing beings that treated the laws of physics like gentle suggestions and could apparently erase civilizations with a thought. "Sir," Commander Zethral said quietly, "perhaps we should consider retreat." "No," Vextar said firmly, though his voice carried less conviction than his words. "The High Command sent us here for a reason. Earth has resources the Empire needs. I won't return empty-handed because of ghost stories and threats from creatures that may not even be real." The ethereal's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "You think we are illusions, Admiral?" "I think you are advanced beings using technology to frighten us," Vextar replied. "But technology can be overcome. Experience can triumph over even the most sophisticated tricks." Secretary General Chen leaned forward in her chair. "Admiral, I understand your position. Military leaders don't become military leaders by backing down from challenges. But this isn't about courage or honor. This is about survival. Human, your species doesn't even have proper planetary defenses," Vextar said, his confidence beginning to return. "You have no orbital weapons platforms, no shield generators, no military infrastructure beyond a few small patrol craft. Whatever protection these council members claim to offer you, it's clearly not absolute. Otherwise, why would you need to negotiate at all?" Lieutenant Kesshal looked up from his console with confusion. "Sir, I'm reading some unusual activity from the planet's surface." "What kind of activity?" "Energy signatures, but not like anything in our databases. They're coming from everywhere, sir. Every major city, every small town, even isolated areas with minimal population." Vextar frowned. "Show me." The tactical display shifted to show Earth from multiple angles. Across the planet's surface, millions of small energy sources were becoming active. They weren't weapons in any conventional sense, but they were clearly artificial and clearly coordinated. "What are those?" Commander Zethral asked. Secretary General Chen's expression softened slightly. "Those are humanity's real defenses, Admiral. Not weapons, not shields, but something far more powerful." "Explain." A new voice joined the conversation. This time it came from a ship that appeared to be made of crystallized music, its hull resonating with harmonious tones that somehow conveyed meaning. "I am Resonance Walker Harmony of the Song Singers. Admiral, your people see war as a contest of technology and strategy. You build bigger ships, more powerful weapons, stronger shields. This is the thinking of a young species. And what's wrong with that thinking?" Vextar demanded. "Nothing for conflicts between young species," the song singer replied. "But humanity is not just another young species. They are the inheritors of something your people lack." The Serpentine Elder's scale shifted to deep blue. "Tell him about the others who tried harmony." The song singer's ship hummed a different tune. "Very well. Admiral, in the past 3 centuries since the Krillian incident, 17 other species have attempted to conquer or destroy humanity. Would you like to know what happened to them?" Vextar said nothing, but his secondary eyes were focused intently on the display. "The Mechanical Collective tried to assimilate humanity 47 years ago," the light being said. "Machines that could convert any organic matter into more of themselves. They saw humanity's rapid expansion and wanted to add their biological distinctiveness to their own." "What happened to them?" Commander Zethral asked. "They learned that humanity's creativity is infectious," the flowing commander replied. "The collective was designed to impose order and uniformity. But human thoughts are chaotic, unpredictable, full of art and music and stories that don't follow logical patterns. When they tried to assimilate human minds, they absorbed that chaos. The collective is still active," the ethereal added, "but now they spend their time writing poetry and composing symphonies. They've become artists instead of conquerors." Vextar's mandibles clicked nervously. "You're saying humanity converted them?" "Not intentionally," Chen said. "That's what makes humanity special, Admiral. They don't just survive contact with other species. They change them, usually for the better. The song singer's ship resonated with a complex melody. The void spawns tried next, creatures from dark space that fed on fear and despair. They surrounded Earth and began broadcasting terror directly into human minds. And humans responded by creating support groups, the Serpentine Elder said. They turned the experience into art, wrote songs about overcoming fear, and developed new therapies for anxiety disorders. The void spawns found themselves feeding not on terror but on hope and resilience. It gave them such indigestion that they fled to the far side of the galaxy. Lieutenant Kesahal was now monitoring the energy readings from Earth's surface more closely. Sir, the energy signatures are becoming more complex. It's like they're communicating with each other. They are, Chen confirmed. Every human on Earth is now connected to our collective defense network. Not through technology, Admiral, but through something far more fundamental. What are you talking about? Vextar demanded. The ethereal's form brightened. Admiral, your species evolved on a world where survival meant competing with each other. The strongest, fastest, and smartest of your kind survived to reproduce. This created individuals who excel at personal achievement. And that's wrong. Not wrong, just limited, the light being replied. Humanity evolved differently. They survived by cooperating. A single human is weak, slow, and has no natural weapons. But together, they became the most successful species their planet had ever produced. Even now, the flowing commander added, humanity's greatest achievements come from their ability to work together. Their art, their science, their exploration of space, all of it depends on cooperation between individuals. The song singer's melody became more urgent. This is what the Council protects, Admiral. Not just another species, but a species that improves everything it touches. Humanity doesn't conquer worlds, they make allies of them. The energy readings are stabilizing, sir, Lieutenant Kesahal reported. And I'm detecting something else. The human ships in this system, they're not running. Vextar looked at the tactical display. It was true. The small human fleet was moving to intercept his much larger force. 36 small ships against 200 Zephyrian warships. They can't possibly think they can win, Commander Zethral said. No, Chen agreed, but they think they can protect their home long enough for something else to happen. What else? The ethereal pulsed brighter. Admiral, humanity's real defense isn't weapons or shields. It's the fact that every species they've ever encountered has chosen to become their ally rather than their enemy. Even the ones who came to conquer them. That's ridiculous, is it? The song singer asked. Admiral, answer this question honestly. In the past hour of talking with Secretary General Chen, have you found yourself respecting her courage? Her composure under pressure? Her willingness to protect her people even when facing impossible odds? Vextar remained silent. You have, haven't you? The Serpentine Elder observed. That's what humanity does, Admiral. They make you want to be better than you are. Admiral Vextar stared at the tactical display showing the approaching human ships. They were small, barely armed compared to his massive warships, yet they moved with purpose and coordination that spoke of experienced crews. Something about their formation bothered him, but he couldn't identify what. Sir, incoming transmission from the lead human vessel, Lieutenant Kesahal announced. Put it through. The screen split to show a human male in a simple blue uniform. His hair was gray at the temples, and his eyes held the kind of steady confidence that came from years of command experience. Admiral Vextar, I'm Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Earth Defense Ship Endeavor. I wanted to speak with you before things go any further. Vextar's secondary eyes twitched. The human had used his name and rank correctly, despite never having been introduced. Captain Mitchell, you're approaching a Zephyrian battle fleet with inferior numbers and outdated technology. I assume you're here to surrender. Captain Mitchell's expression didn't change. Actually, Admiral, I'm here to make you an offer. An offer? Commander Zethral couldn't hide his surprise. Yes, Admiral, your fleet has been traveling for 3 months to reach Earth. Your crews are tired. Your supplies are running low, and you're far from any Zephyrian support. We're offering to resupply your ships and provide shore leave for your personnel. Vextar's mandibles clicked in confusion. You want to help us? That's what humans do, Admiral, Captain Mitchell replied. We help. The ethereal's voice resonated through the bridge. This is what we've been trying to tell you, Admiral. Humanity's first instinct isn't to fight. It's to reach out, sir, Lieutenant Kesahal called out urgently. I'm detecting massive power buildups in the human ships, but these aren't weapon signatures. What are they? The young officer's purple skin had gone almost white with confusion. Communication arrays, sir. Broadcasting systems. And something else I can't identify. Secretary General Chen reappeared on the main screen. Admiral, what Lieutenant Keshal is detecting is humanity's real secret weapon. Would you like to see it in action? Before Vextar could respond, every screen on his ship's bridge filled with images. Not tactical displays or sensor readings, but something else entirely. They showed Earth from ground level, cities with architecture that somehow managed to be both functional and beautiful, parks where different species walked together peacefully, laboratories where humans and aliens worked side by side on projects that benefited everyone. But it wasn't just images. Somehow the broadcasts were carrying emotions as well. Vextar found himself feeling the joy of a human child seeing snow for the first time, the satisfaction of a scientist solving a complex problem, the love between family members saying goodbye as one left for a long journey. "What is this?" he whispered. "This is how humans see the universe," the song singer's harmonious voice replied. "They don't see enemies to be conquered or resources to be taken. They see potential friends, potential partners, potential family." The broadcast continued, showing more scenes of daily life on Earth. Humans teaching alien children to play games, alien engineers working with human designers to create new technologies, restaurants where beings from dozens of different worlds shared meals and stories. "Sir," Commander Zethral said quietly, "my tactical systems are malfunctioning. I'm showing zero threat assessments for any of the human vessels." "That's not a malfunction," Captain Mitchell said. "Your ship's computers are responding to the emotional context of our transmissions. When every signal you receive carries friendship instead of hostility, most advanced AI systems interpret that as evidence that no threat exists." Vextar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at the images with expressions he'd never seen before. Lieutenant Keshal was actually smiling, something Zephyrians rarely did except in private with close family. "This is some kind of psychological warfare," Vextar said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No, Admiral," the flowing commander interjected. "This is just humanity being human. They can't help but share what makes them happy." The transmissions shifted to show something that made Vextar's blood run cold. The images now displayed Zephyrian civilians on Earth, his own people living peacefully in human cities, working alongside humans, even intermarrying with them. "When did this happen?" he demanded. 3 years ago, Secretary General Chen replied. "The transport ship Kethmalar had engine problems near our system. We rescued them, repaired their ship, and offered them safe harbor while they waited for pickup." The High Command never mentioned this. "No, they wouldn't," Chen said sadly, "because half of your people chose to stay. They're citizens of Earth now, Admiral. They found something here they couldn't find in the Empire." The images showed Zephyrian children playing with human children, their natural four-armed agility making them excellent at sports that required coordination. They showed Zephyrian engineers working on projects that seemed to blend their natural technical skills with human creativity. "Impossible," Commander Zethral breathed. "Our people would never abandon the Empire." "They didn't abandon anything," Captain Mitchell said gently. "They found something better, a place where their skills were valued, where they could contribute to something larger than conquest and expansion." The Serpentine Elder's scales had shifted to a warm gold color. "This is what the Council has been trying to preserve, Admiral. Not just humanity, but humanity's gift for transformation. Every species they encounter becomes better than it was before." Vextar watched the images continue to flow across his screens. He saw Zephyrian scientists making discoveries they never could have made alone. He saw Zephyrian artists creating works that blended their traditional forms with human influences, creating something entirely new and beautiful. "Sir," Lieutenant Keshal said softly, "I'm receiving personal messages from the Zephyrian citizens on Earth. They're asking about their families back home." "Personal messages?" "Yes, sir. It seems they've been trying to contact their relatives in the Empire for months, but their communications have been blocked by Imperial censors." Vextar felt a cold certainty settling in his stomach. "Show me the messages." The screen filled with Zephyrian faces, but they looked different somehow. Happier, more relaxed. They spoke of their new lives, their human friends, their hopes for the future. But they also spoke of missing their families and their desire to share what they'd learned on Earth. "The High Command has been censoring these communications," Chen said quietly. "They were afraid that if other Zephyrians learned what life was like on Earth, they might want to come here too." That's not... Vextar stopped. It was exactly what the High Command would do. He'd seen them suppress information before when it didn't serve the Empire's interests. Admiral, Captain Mitchell said, would you like to speak with some of your people? They're all volunteers for the Earth Defense Force now. They've been hoping for a chance to show the Empire that there's a better way to live. Before Vextar could respond, another transmission activated. This one showed a Zephyrian in an Earth defense uniform, standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a human ship. Admiral Vextar, the Zephyrian said in their native language, I am Commander Yistek, formerly of the Imperial Engineering Corps. I need to tell you something about what the High Command isn't telling you about Earth. Admiral Vextar stared at the image of Commander Isthek in shock. He remembered the engineer well. Isthek had been one of the brightest minds in the Imperial fleet, responsible for designing the power systems on half of their newest warships. His disappearance 3 years ago had been explained as a deep space accident. Isthek, you're supposed to be dead, Vextar said. The Zephyrian commander's mandibles moved in what humans had taught him was a smile. I was dead, Admiral. Dead inside, working on projects that existed only to help the Empire conquer more worlds. Here I'm alive, you're a traitor. No, Admiral. I'm free. Isthek gestured to something off-screen. Let me show you what I've been working on. The image expanded to show a massive construction project. In space near Earth. Ships from dozens of different species worked together on what appeared to be a space station, but unlike any Vextar had ever seen. Instead of the cold, functional architecture of military installations, the structure flowed like art with sections that seemed to grow organically from a central core. This is Hope Station, Isthek explained, a joint project between humanity and 43 other species. It's not a military base or a trade station, it's something new. What's its purpose? Commander Zethral asked. Everything, Isthek replied. Research, art, education, diplomacy, exploration. It's a place where different species can come together to work on projects that benefit everyone. Secretary General Chen reappeared on screen beside Isthek's image. Admiral, Hope Station represents something that's never existed before in galactic history. A truly cooperative venture where no single species dominates and every voice is heard equally. Impossible, Vextar said. Different species have different needs, different goals. Cooperation on that scale can't work. The ethereal's crystalline form pulsed. That's what every other species believed, Admiral. Until they encountered humanity. The humans don't just make cooperation possible, the song singer added, its ship resonating with harmonious tones. They make it enjoyable. Lieutenant Keshal looked up from his console with wonder in his eyes. Sir, I'm detecting incredible technological signatures from that station. Some of the energy readings are beyond anything in our databases. Of course they are, Isthek said proudly. When you have 43 different species sharing their knowledge freely, you can accomplish things that none of them could achieve alone. The screen shifted to show the interior of Hope Station. Vast laboratories where beings of different species worked side by side. Libraries that contained not just data, but actual experiences shared through technologies that allowed one species to understand how another perceived the universe. Art galleries that displayed works created collaboratively by minds that evolved on different worlds. This is what the High Command fears, Isthek continued. Not humanity's military power, but their ability to show other species that the Empire's way isn't the only way. Vextar's secondary eyes focused on the tactical displays. The Empire brings order to chaos. We provide stability and protection. You provide control and stagnation, Isthek replied sadly. Admiral, when was the last time the Empire created something beautiful? When did we last make a discovery that wasn't immediately turned into a weapon? The question hit harder than Vextar expected. He couldn't remember the last time the Empire had produced art for its own sake, or conducted research that wasn't military in nature. Sir, Lieutenant Keshal interrupted. I'm receiving a priority transmission from the Imperial Fleet Command. Put it through. The screen filled with the imposing figure of High Admiral Krexnall, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Navy. His scarred face and cybernetic eye implants spoke of decades of military campaigns. Admiral Vextar, why have you not begun the bombardment of the human world? Krexnall demanded. Sir, the situation is more complex than our intelligence indicated. There are unknown forces protecting Earth, and I've discovered that Imperial citizens are living peacefully on the planet. Imperial citizens who have committed treason by abandoning their posts, Krexnall snarled. You will destroy the planet and everyone on it, including the traitors. Sir, with respect, these citizens weren't traitors. They were refugees who— Silence! Krexnall's cybernetic eye flared red. You have your orders, Admiral. The Empire requires Earth's resources, and humanity has refused to surrender. Destroy them. Hi, Admiral, Vextar said carefully. I believe there may be alternatives to— The transmission was cut off abruptly. In its place appeared the face of Yisthek again. He's not going to listen, Admiral, the engineer said sadly. The High Command has already decided that humanity must be destroyed. They're afraid of what would happen if the Empire's citizens learned that there are alternatives to conquest and subjugation. Commander Zethral stepped closer to Vextar. Sir, if the High Admiral has given direct orders— I know what my orders are, Vextar said grimly. He looked around his bridge at his crew, then at the images still flowing from Earth showing Zephyrian citizens living happily among humans. The flowing commander's voice filled the bridge. Admiral, you have a choice to make. You can follow orders and attempt to destroy a world that has never threatened the Empire, or you can choose something different. What choice? Vextar asked. I'm a military officer. I follow orders. Even orders that are wrong? Captain Mitchell asked from her ship. Orders are orders. Secretary General Chen leaned forward on the screen. Admiral, can I ask you something? Why did you join the Imperial Navy? To serve the Empire and protect our people. And have you always felt that your service accomplished those goals? Vextar remained silent. I've read your service record, Chen continued. 47 worlds conquered, 17 species enslaved or extinct. How many of those worlds actually threatened the Zephyrian Empire? Irrelevant. They had resources we needed, did they? Or did the Empire want them because expansion is the only way it knows how to define success? The ethereal's voice resonated through the bridge. Admiral, we're offering you the same choice we offered your citizens 3 years ago. You can continue serving a system that reduces every interaction to conquest or submission, or you can discover what it's like to be part of something that creates instead of destroys. Sir, Lieutenant Keshal said quietly, the energy readings from Earth are changing again. It's like the entire planet is trying to communicate with us. Not communicate, the song singer corrected. Singing. What? The sound that filled the bridge was unlike anything any Zephyrian had ever heard. It was music, but not just music. It was the combined voices of billions of humans and the thousands of aliens who had chosen to make Earth their home. They weren't singing words in any language, but somehow the meaning was clear. They were singing about hope, about possibility, about the choice between fear and love. Sir? Commander Zethral whispered. My tactical computers are reporting that every weapon system on our fleet has been automatically safetied. By who? By us, Lieutenant Keshal said in wonder, staring at his console. The music. It's making us not want to fight. Admiral Vexitar looked at his screens, showing the impossible beauty of Hope Station, the faces of his own people living freely on Earth, and the offer of friendship from beings so powerful they could erase civilizations with a thought but chose instead to protect and nurture. Admiral, Chen said softly, what's it going to be? Admiral Vextar stood in the silence following Secretary General Chen's question. Around him, his bridge crew waited with expressions he had never seen on Zephyrian faces before. Hope, wonder, and something that might have been longing. The music from Earth continued to fill his ship, carried on frequencies that somehow bypassed their communication filters and spoke directly to something deeper than conscious thought. It wasn't controlling them or forcing compliance. Instead, it was simply showing them what harmony felt like. Sir, Lieutenant Keshal said quietly, I'm detecting movement in our fleet. Vextar looked at the tactical display. Several of his ships were breaking formation, moving toward Earth rather than away from it. What are they doing? Unknown, sir. They're not responding to hails, but they're not showing any aggressive intent either. Captain Mitchell's voice came from the human ship. Admiral, 3 of your captains have requested permission to dock with our vessels. They want to talk. Talk about what? About their options, Commander Yisthek said from Hope Station. Admiral, your captains aren't stupid. They can see what's happening here just as clearly as you can. The ethereal's crystalline form pulsed with gentle light. This is always the hardest moment, Admiral. When a being realizes that everything they've been taught about strength and power might be wrong. I'm not wrong, Vextar said, but his voice lacked conviction. The Empire has brought stability to 47 worlds. Has it? The song singer asked. Or has it brought fear masked as stability? Admiral, when was the last time you visited one of the worlds the Empire liberated? Have you seen how they live under Imperial rule? Vextar's mandibles clicked nervously. The truth was, he had seen the conquered worlds. He had seen the fear in the eyes of subjugated populations, the way they hurried past Imperial patrols. The sullen compliance that came from knowing resistance was futile. Sir, Commander Zethral said hesitantly. Permission to speak freely? Granted. Sir, I've been thinking about my clutch siblings back home. They're all in different Imperial services. My sister Velthera works in resource extraction on Kepler-7. She hasn't sounded happy in her last few communications. Lieutenant Kesahal looked up from his console. Sir, Kepler-7 is one of the worlds we conquered 12 years ago. The local population was forced to work in our mining operations. They were given employment and Imperial citizenship, Vextar said automatically. Were they given a choice? Secretary General Chen asked gently. Vextar didn't answer. The screen shifted to show new images from Earth, but these were different from before. Instead of showing the peaceful cities and cooperative projects, they showed something else entirely. Zephyrian citizens working alongside members of the species the Empire had conquered. Admiral, Isthek said, let me introduce you to some people. The image focused on a Zephyrian female working in what appeared to be a garden with several beings from the Kepler-7 system. The indigenous species there were small plant-like creatures with natural harmony with growing things. This is sub-engineer Kilara, Isthek explained. She came here 6 months ago on a supply transport that had engine trouble. She was fascinated by how the Kepler-7 refugees had adapted their agricultural techniques to Earth's soil. The plant-like beings were teaching the Zephyrian engineer how to encourage certain types of growth without the harsh chemical fertilizers the Empire typically used. In exchange, she was showing them how to use simple tools to expand their cultivation areas. The refugees, Vextar asked. From the mining operations on their homeworld, Chen said quietly. When their soil was contaminated by Imperial extraction techniques, we offered sanctuary to any who wanted to come here. You're harboring Imperial citizens and conquered peoples together. We're helping people who need help, Captain Mitchell replied. Species doesn't matter here. The images continued, showing more examples. Zephyrians learning art from species they had conquered, former Imperial soldiers working alongside beings whose worlds they had invaded, now collaborating on projects that benefited everyone. This is impossible, Vextar whispered. There should be hatred, resentment, desire for revenge. There was, at first, the flowing commander said. But humans have this remarkable ability to help others move past their pain toward something better. How? They listen, the Serpentine Elder explained. They acknowledge the harm that was done. They work to repair what can be repaired. And they focus on building something new rather than dwelling on what was destroyed. Lieutenant Keshel's console chimed with an incoming message. Sir, it's from Captain Velthek of the destroyer Kethvash. He's requesting permission to defect. What? Sir, half our fleet is reporting the same thing. The crews are asking to stay here. Vextar looked around his bridge in shock. You want to abandon your oaths to the Empire? Sir, Commander Zethral said carefully, what if our oath was to the wrong thing? Before Vextar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. New contacts were appearing on the tactical display, but these weren't Council ships. These were Imperial reinforcements. High Admiral Krexnull, Lieutenant Kesahal announced. He's brought the 3rd and 7th battle fleets. The display showed nearly 1,000 Imperial warships dropping out of hyperspace around the system. The Earth Defense Forces were now outnumbered 50-1. Admiral Vextar, came Krexnull's voice over the communication system. Stand down your vessels immediately. You and your crew are under arrest for failure to carry out direct orders. Sir, Secretary General Chen said from Earth, you still have a choice. Vextar stared at the massive Imperial fleet arrayed against Earth's small defense force. He thought about his crew, many of whom were now openly questioning their loyalty to the Empire. He thought about the images he had seen of former enemies working together in harmony. He thought about the music that had filled his ship with something he had never felt before. Admiral, the ethereal said, The Council has remained neutral in conflicts between younger species, but if the Imperial fleet attacks Earth, we will act. You'll destroy them like you did the Krillians. We'll offer them the same choice we offered you. But if they choose violence, the crystalline being's form pulsed ominously. The galaxy will lose another empire, and it will be replaced by something better. Vextar looked at his crew one more time. Lieutenant Kesahal was watching him with hope in his eyes. Commander Zethral was standing straighter than she had in years. Even his normally emotionless bridge officers were waiting to see what kind of leader he really was. "Sir?" Commander Zethral said softly. "Orders?" Admiral Vextar took a deep breath and made the choice that would change galactic history. "All ships," he announced over the fleet communication channel. "This is Admiral Vextar. Disengage your weapon systems and request permission to dock with Earth defense vessels. We are hereby requesting sanctuary with the Terran Republic." "Sir," Lieutenant Kesahal's voice was filled with joy. "The entire fleet is confirming. Every ship is standing down." "Admiral Vextar," High Admiral Krexnall's voice boomed across the communication system. "You are a traitor to the Empire. We will destroy you along with this pathetic human world." "No," Vextar replied, surprising himself with the calm certainty in his voice. "You won't. Because as the Imperial 3rd and 7th Battle Fleets moved to attack, something remarkable happened. The crew members on those ships had been listening to the same transmissions, seeing the same images, hearing the same music that had transformed Vextar's fleet. One by one, ships began breaking formation. Not to attack, but to join the growing crowd around Earth. The age of the Empire was ending. The age of cooperation was just beginning, and somewhere in the depths of space, ancient beings who had guided the galaxy for eons watched with satisfaction as humanity did what they did best. They made everyone around them want to be better than they were.